There's this weird thumbs up on my phone. Okay, cool. Okay, so let me open up the chat. So if you guys have any questions. Okay, so just one more time. Can you hear okay? Okay, so we're ready. So here's the question, and find yours. Okay, and this was actually the same as on the HL test. Okay, so let me go down here. And then I can write on here, and the color coding was helping when I was in HL, so I'm going to do it with the color coding. Okay, let me just teach you first how to grade, not necessarily how to do the question. Okay, but limits. Okay, so the limits means that you have the 0 and you have the 60. So I'm going to put +1 in purple. And if you have both the 0 and the 60 in this one, you get 1 point. Okay, so that's +1 point. Okay, now the integrand, I'm going to change colors on this one. So on the integrand right here, the integrand is actually the inside part here. And I'm pretty sure if you didn't have the dt, they would still give you full credit. Okay, now that says S prime. You could also write the entire equation in there. So if you wrote, I'll put this in blue, but if you put this part right here in at this spot, that would also be 1 point. Okay, so either way would be okay. Okay, the answer. So let me do that one in red. Okay, if you have the answer, that's actually probably not the units, maybe the units. Maybe the units too. Does it say use units? You know, it doesn't say use units. So I would say that usually if they don't say to use units and you forget your units, they usually don't take off. Okay, and they usually mention units. Oh, okay, hold on. I agree. Hold on. It's really blurry. Can you read this clearly? Okay, so it's my photos. I had to do a little workaround because this PDF said I couldn't change it. So I took photos of it. So that's why it's a little bit dim. Okay, so that S prime of t is a little bit dim, but let me write that over for you so that you can see it. Okay, so right here, this one says S prime of t dt. And it's a little blurry for me, so it's my photo. Okay. Okay, anyone have any questions about the points on this one? Any idea about the points? Okay, so I don't see anything. Okay, just make sure you ask, okay? So if you have any questions like, would I have gotten a point for this? Would I have gotten a point for that? That's why we're doing it live instead of just me talking, because I need to know what questions you might have. Okay, so if you came in a little bit late, we said that the blue, you could either write S prime of t or you could write what's above, and that would be okay as well. For this one, the points is the answer. Okay, so let me just give you the answer. There's only 1 point here, and the point is actually for one of these numbers. And I'm going to put or, whichever one you have, you would have gotten 1 point for. Okay, so that's an or. Okay, so that's an or. So it's one or the other. Now you see how there's units, right? So let me show you something interesting about the units. The unit scoring is down below. Do you always round to 3 decimal places? Yes, you can either round to 3 decimal places or you can cut it off. I'm just answering a message from Miss Nicholas. we're probably going to be here till 8:30. So Miss Nicholas said she just got back from a walk. Okay. So see. And then I just gave her the code. I didn't give her the whole Google code, so she would have to log in. Oh yeah. And Mr. Chen, he's taking care of his baby, his young one. So very exciting. And then Miss Chen, I sent her an email. She doesn't check her cell phone. Okay. So that's it for those. Okay. So let's look at the next one. Any questions so far? Since we're recording this, video that will come out will be the same picture quality as it is now. Yes. So is it pretty terrible? Terrible? Is that a yes, terrible? Because I wonder if it's my Wi-Fi. Does my voice break up or my voice is smooth? Xinguan? It's on and off. Is it on and off for everyone or only people with bad Wi-Fi? Because we don't know if it's my Wi-Fi or your Wi-Fi. But my Wi-Fi's been kind of lagging today, so I can go into another room where I have better Wi-Fi. Anyone besides Joanna? Because I want to fix it if it's a problem. I can mobile hotspot onto my phone. So should we check if that's better? Oh, I've never set up mobile hotspot on this tablet with my phone, so that's not actually going to work. But I can move. Anybody besides Joanna? Is it good? Is it bad? Sometimes terrible. Okay, so it's a lot of you. Okay, let's see how I am for my battery. Okay, let me change rooms. Well, let me hold on. Let me do mobile hotspot. Okay. I wonder if we can pause the recording. Probably not. Okay, so let's see. Let me mobile hotspot to my phone. And we'll see if that's better. It was working the other day really well. So, but today my Wi-Fi's been kind of spotty, so I should be in a room closer to the Wi-Fi. Connected. It's not even reading my mobile hotspot. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay. So you guys don't memorize this password. Okay, this is the password to my hotspot or my mobile hotspot. Oh, and then a parentheses. You know, they always have that funny thing. Yes, we're going to talk about the units in a minute, but just talk about the can you see it? Is this better? Because now we're on my mobile hotspot instead. And we'll talk about the units. That's what I was about to talk about before you guys said that the thing was bad. So anyone have anything to say? Do I sound better now or better before? Now's better? Okay, good. I'm on mobile hotspot, so I could do that. That's no problem. Okay, so let's talk about the units. Okay, so the units, millimeters per day, almost the same. Okay. So millimeters per day. And then if you go way to the bottom, do you see where it says units in B or C? It's giving you 1 point for either having the units in B correct or the units in C correct. So these two right here, this is an or. Okay, let me move this. Okay. Okay, so that one's an or. So if you got the units right, so the red is only for having either one of the numbers. And then the units are if you had a B or a C right. You don't have to have them both right. Okay, so for some of you it's better and some of you it's not. Okay. Okay, so would zooming in help? Does zoom in help? Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit. Zooming in helps. Okay, let me go back to here. Okay, Sounds good. Okay, so B or C, you can have one of those two and you get 1 point. So I'm color coding, so that's this point right here. Okay, that's that point right here. Okay, and then in this one, let's do blue. We'll change. Okay, this is the relationship between V and S. So this is the relationship between V and S. And I'll rewrite it in case you can't see it. V of t equals 100 pi and then S of t. And if you had the whole equation for, well, you wouldn't have the whole equation for S of t, so we don't have that. Should you always write units even if the answer doesn't require it? I would suggest writing units if the answer, even if it doesn't say it, but usually they don't assign it unless they specifically said indicate the units of measure. But you never know, so you might as well be safe. But if you notice, they did not give any points for the millimeters in part A. And it would have said answer with units if they wanted you to count that. Okay. Okay. You don't need to do, okay, put H instead for C. How many points would be taken off? Well, it depends. I would say it depends because did you keep going? Okay, so the question was if you put H instead of S of t for C, how many points would be taken off? Okay, so let's check here. The answer is worth this. So this is +1, and let me go back to blue. And this was +1. So I can't, did you take over my presentation? Which is okay. Or was that an accident? The answer is correct. Okay, so I would say if your answer is correct, then you're okay because what you probably wrote, I'll write it over here. Let me write it under the answer. Okay, so I'll write this over here in red so you can see it. Is what I would have done is I would have said V equals pi r squared H. And then I would have put R because it's a cylinder, right? And the R is, I believe it said the radius was 10. Yeah, the radius was 10 millimeters. And that's a permanent number. Okay, so since that's a permanent number, I would have substituted that in right here. And I would have done 100 pi H. And then you can't see the screen. Okay, somebody took over. Hold on a second. Thank you for letting me know. Somebody took over the presentation, so accidentally probably. I don't know how to freeze that, but let's see if I can present screen. You will see everything, including notifications. Okay, start presenting. Okay, so let's see. I think somebody hit the presenting button, and that was the problem. Okay, we can't see the screen. Okay, can you see the screen now? How is it now? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I think I'm over here in red. So let me show you what I just did. Okay, I'm over here on the side in red. Okay, right here where I just put the star. So I would have solved it like this as a related rates. And then I would have written dv dt equals the derivative of this is a constant times the derivative of h, which is dh. And then I would have put a dt. And then I would have realized that h was s prime of t. So I think that if you had this answer, I think you should also get the point. So let me highlight this for you. So if you have this answer right here, I would say if you have this step and this step, right, and then you substituted the S in, I feel like, and you got the right answer, I feel like they would give you the blue point. Okay. Okay, that highlighter kind of dims that color though, huh? You can't even see the answer anymore. So let me unhighlight that. Okay, highlighter. Okay. So anyway, so here we go. Oops, I'm still on highlighter. Okay, eraser. All my different pen apps work differently, so it's very interesting. Okay, pen app. I need to not be on highlighter. I need to go back to pen. Okay, there we go. Oops, now it's red. Okay, there we go. Okay, it's been quite an adventure. I have a new tablet and it's a little bit different than my phone and my old tablet. Okay, So how's that? Other questions? What if I put V and H in the formula instead of using V and S for the first point part? That's what I'm saying. So I feel like the blue over here. Okay, so look over here in blue. I'm circling it. I feel like if you did this, that I'm circling in blue, I feel like that you should be able to get that point as well. Now, the key is, did you get the answer right? So if you get the answer right, and you did the work that I'm showing over here in blue, so I'm going to put this or, okay, so one of those two. Yeah, because I really feel like V and H, it makes more sense. I wrote it like that, but I didn't show that H was S of T. But how'd you get the 602.218? Did you call the HDT S prime of T at any point? So the question was, I wrote like that, but I did not show H equals S of T. So that was the question. So I feel like if you took the derivative and it says dH dt, which is what you probably had, and then you substituted in S prime for that, and not S prime the initials, but if you put in the S prime from up here, then you would have gotten the point. Oh, okay. So let's see. Do we take the derivative first or plug in the numbers, then take the derivative? Because for the cones, you take the derivative first, so I'm confused. Okay. So the reason I didn't take the derivative first is because this 10 millimeters, this radius, okay, this radius is always 10. So I call those permanent numbers. So if the number is always the same number, you can substitute it in first. If it's a temporary number, then you can't. Yes, I feel if you put dHdt, I think you made a typo, but if you put dHdt equals S prime of 7, I think you're covered. Did you get the right answer, Youngjin? Eugene? No. Okay. But I think if you put dHdt equals S prime of T and you would have had to have one of these steps over here. Okay. So you would have had to have this at some point. And I would say probably this one. Because they did want the relationship between V and H. So if you get the relationship between dV dt and dH, then I feel like they would have given you the point. If you're in doubt, don't give yourself the point, because then you can always improve later. It's not going to hurt you. Okay, so you can give yourself like a maybe point. Okay, or a half point. Okay, so just so you can kind of get the idea of how it's graded. Okay, let me make sure I keep looking at these comments. Okay, so in D, I feel like I don't think anybody would get this bottom point. Okay, so that justification point, I think no one's going to get that point. Okay, so that bottom point is like an impossible point. Where did it go? Okay, so let me color code again so I can show you. Okay, so let's talk about this. It's intermediate value theorem. Now they mention intermediate value theorem in the problem. Okay, so intermediate value theorem is the one where if you find out here's 0 and here's 60, if one value is below and one value is above the x-axis, then at some point it must have hit any value in between. Okay, so any value in between there. Now the most famous one is 0. Okay, so you must hit 0 somewhere in between. So that's the most famous way they do the intermediate value theorem. Okay, but intermediate value theorem at this point, I mean, the AP isn't tomorrow. So the intermediate value theorem is definitely kind of tricky at this point. Okay, so basically, if you found out what the y value was here, which is 0.675, and the y value here, which is 69.377, then somewhere in between, you're going to have to hit 0. Okay, so now it says, if you look at these instructions, it only says that you consider D of 0 and D of 60. So it doesn't mean that you had to have the numbers right. So it said consider, not get correct. Okay, so if you just thought of D of 0 and thought of D of 60, then this would give you 1 point. Okay, not even the answers. 48 people, that's a lot. That's good. Okay, let's see. Okay, so that's this point right here. And that's this point right here. Okay, the justification. The justification I feel is going to be pretty complicated. So to get that justification point, you would have to mention the word continuous. D is continuous. You'd have to have that. You'd have to say intermediate value theorem. I would say no on the 0 to 60 for the for the light blue point. So for the light blue point, no, you have to specifically calculate D of 0 and specifically calculate D of 60. Okay, so for the black point, you'd have to have D as continuous, and you'd have to mention the intermediate value theorem. Oh, do you mean 0 less than X less than 60 here? In step D? Are you talking about for the black point? If you're talking about the black point, yeah, I think I would use T. I wouldn't use T. I wouldn't use X. I would use C. They did specifically say T up here, but I think it'd be okay if you put X. Okay, so let's see. You know, some people are commenting over here on the joint classroom. I wonder if they're stuck. So let me just make sure that no one is stuck. Anybody make a comment over there? Comments? No, because I'm getting notifications. So I just want to make sure that I have no notifications over there. Okay, well, I don't see any. Okay, there we go. Okay, so at which D equals 0, you would need that. Okay, and then you would also probably need this, because let's see if this is the one. Yes. Okay, so D of 0, D of T equals 0. And then is it M first? Yeah, M's first and then S. So you would have to put M prime of T minus S prime of T equals 0. So M prime of T equals S prime of T. That's it? No equals 0? Okay. And then this is saying that the rates are increasing at the same time. That's why it's saying the two cans are changing at the same rate, the height of the water in the two cans. I don't see how anybody gets that black point. Okay, so don't worry, you don't have to get all the points on the AP test. The scoring, you know, if you get a 50%, that's almost a 4. Okay, so you don't have to get every single point. It's not graded like normal grading in your math class. Okay? Same thing with the multiple choice. You'll be able to see your multiple choice score. I'll be able to put those scores up for you. Okay. If you don't say D is continuous, do you not get the justification point? I would say yes, you do not get the justification point. Unless they mention continuity. Yeah, no. Yeah, you would need to say it was continuous. You can already see the multiple choice scores. Does it tell you whether you got a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1 on the multiple choice? Oh, okay, so that's the scoring that I'm going to put up. So I can give you the percentages on this test so that you can see what the what the score would be. See, we can see that. We can see that, but I didn't think about the fact that you might not be able to see it. Because it gives us like whether you're I don't know if it gives you colors. Oh, yes, it says advanced, etc. Okay, so she did set that. So I don't know, there should be 5 in the list. So I'm sure she called it advanced if you got a 5, but I don't know what she would have called 4. I don't know. Okay, so let's continue with this. We can look at that later. I can give you the scoring at the end anyway. Okay, any questions on number 1? Okay, number 2. And remember, the point of all of this is for you to get better. You're not supposed to be an expert yet. If you were going to be an expert, then you could take the AP test tomorrow. Okay, you got lots more practice to do. What the multiple choice is for is the multiple choice is for you to test so you can see if you know all 45 different topics, basically. Okay, and then you know that your exam will probably just be free response because they said it would be 45 minutes. They don't want you to cheat. That's the reason. So that's the main thing. Okay, so it's still helpful to practice multiple choice because any multiple choice question could be made into a free response question. You just have to think, don't look at trying to get the answer choices. Think about how you would show your work on that question to convince somebody that you knew what you were doing. Okay, so this question says at time equals 0, you begin to drain modeled by where, okay, you're given by that. Is it continuous? Continuous? You're like, why is it asking continuous when it looks like it's an accumulation function? Okay, so I think I would write it a little bit differently. The way we do it at Walnut is a little bit different. So let me show you what most of your teachers do. They either call it Roman numeral 1 or they call it just a plain 1, but they call it the 3-step test for continuity. So for step 1, that would be F of, except in this case, they're asking me about R. Okay, so that would be R of, and where's the potential discontinuity? I would say the potential discontinuity is right here at the break. Oh, they also asked me about 5. So that would be 5 equals. Okay, so R of 5, and then you look for where the equal sign is. Okay, and the equal sign is on the top one. So this is where the equal sign is. So you would substitute that in, and you can use a calculator because you're still on the calculator section here. So you wouldn't have to show this work. Oh, let's admit her. Cool. Okay, so then you work that out. Okay, and that's 375. And rule number 2 for continuity is that you would take the limit from the left side and you would take the limit from the right side, and it has to be the same. Okay, so the limit from the left side, you would use the one with the less than sign, not that less than sign. Okay, you would use the one with this less than sign. Okay, so that would be 600t over t plus 3. Okay, and that would also be 375. And then usually in your classes, you would then write this way. Okay, 1,000 e to the negative 0.2t, and then you would substitute that in, and that's where you'd get the 367.879. And these two don't match. Okay, so these don't match. So there's no limit. You could also put D and E. And so it's not continuous. So it failed test 2. So usually we do it in order, right? Don't you usually do this step first? Don't you usually do step 1 first and then you do the limit? So I would say the limit. So I would say not continuous. And then you shouldn't abbreviate because you don't know if they're going to know your abbreviations. So it's not continuous. Oops. Because the limit as t approaches 5 of r of t is equal to, it does not exist. So you wouldn't really put equal to. Does not exist. Okay. And then you could write it the way they wrote it, but I would say that most of the time you're not going to write it that way because that's not the way we do it at Walnut. So anyway, this was just plus 2 points. If you set them equal to each other and input 5 for t, I can see that they don't equal each other. Do I have to write limit? Yes, you would have to write limit. If you don't write limit, it's not going to work. Kelly, I don't know what that means. What if we plug in the numbers but didn't say limit? I would say no. You definitely have to use the word limit. Okay, what if we plug in the numbers but didn't say limit? By the way, on part A, you didn't verbally say the limits are not equal, but represented it. Is that not a point? Yes, that's not a point. You need to say limits if you're talking about this. You need to use official language. If I didn't write 375 and 367.879 and only wrote the limit, would it count? I would say no. I would say no, because you have to show that they're not equal. And you wouldn't be able to show they're not equal if you didn't show that. Did you show it in a picture? If you showed it on an actual graph where at t equals 5 and you had the two graphs and they didn't show it, then that would be possible. So say you showed a graph that looked like this, except it would be the other way. And that's not the real graph, okay? So I'm going to erase that so that the other people don't see it. Okay, but basically, if you had that graph, then and they didn't meet, I would say they might give you a point for that and not saying continuous. But otherwise, you do need to use the word limits if they're talking about continuous. Okay, any other questions on the first part of this one? That's pretty good, you guys. We have 43 people on. Okay. They can hear you, Javier. Go away. Go away. I don't know which one works. I'm in the middle of something. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so the next one. The next one says, what is the average rate of change? Okay, average rate. Okay, so the average rate. Okay, the average rate is like 1 over b minus a, integral a to b of the rate. And then the rate is r. Okay? Okay, so that's just kind of the how-to. But let's look at the points. Okay? And let me see if you have any more questions. If I just set them equal, yeah, we already talked about those. Okay, and what's sad about part A is it's 2 points. It's not splittable. Okay, it doesn't say 1.1.1 point or 1.1 point. It says 2 points. So that means if you don't have it, then you can't get all the points. Okay, so integrand. Okay, integrand, I'm not sure if you know this word. So integrand is the inside part. Now, would they want you to have both integrands? It's a good question. I don't know if limits and constant. I kind of feel like they mean this integrand. I feel like they would give you a point for this integrand. And then the limits in the constant. Okay, the limits in the constant, this is the 1/8 in dark blue. And that's the constant and the limits. That would be these numbers here, which one of them is an 8 and one of them is a 0. Okay, was somebody just talking? That's okay, but I didn't hear you. You can take off the microphone and talk if you want to say something. Okay, or you can type it. Okay, so this you have to have both, correct, to get the 1 point in the dark blue. Okay, the answer, in this case, the answer is right here. And then this would just be the answer. So whichever one of these would be okay. Okay, and you have to do a piecewise. You have to do the integral piecewise. You wouldn't be able to put 1/5 and 1/3 in the front. Average value and average rate. Okay, that's a very good question. Let me show you the difference. Let's see what color I should use. Let me use green. Okay, so average value is 1 over b. That's kind of a bad color. So let me use red. Let me use, I'll use black. Okay, so you can see. Okay, so the question was, what's the difference between average value and average rate? Okay, so average value is 1 over b minus a, f of x dx. And then average rate is 1 over b minus a, the rate. Okay, now usually the rate would be the derivative. And then you could then take the antiderivative and plug in a and b. So that would be f of b minus f of a over b minus a. This is also average rate. So average rate is like algebra slope. Okay, and average value is the integral, and then you do need the bounds. If you didn't write the integral of r of t, but the second step, would you have the points? Yeah. So let's do an or. So you're saying that you went directly to this. I would say if you had both of these, then you'd have to have both of them and then in the right spots. Okay, so if you had both of these plus one or, now these are or, so don't give yourself too many points. Okay, so that's why we're color coding. If you didn't write the integral, but you got the second step. Yeah, I definitely would say that you would. And then even if you didn't have the 1/8 in the front, so if you just had the 600t over t plus 3 and you had the 1000e to the negative 0.2t dt and you had the wrong bounds, they would have given you the blue point. Okay, the blue point is for any of the integrands being right. I would say both integrands on the right side being right or the r of t. But it is a mystery. It is a mystery. So when you see the way they grade, and you can grade yours all the time because these answers are online. So you can go through and you can grade them. So you're kind of guessing a little bit. Integrand is the inside. Integral means the whole thing. Answer is just the answer at the end. You can round or you can truncate, which just means cut off the end of the decimal, but usually we don't do that. Usually we round correctly. It would be weird because in college you can't do that. You can't just cut off the answer. Okay, any other questions on this one? Okay, the rate at which water is draining out of the tank. Okay, so let's look at the question says, did you write? So did you write r prime of 3? Now, did it say that you had to get the answer right? That's interesting, probably, but let's see. Yeah, it says find r prime of t. So if you just wrote r prime of t, okay, that's not going to give you the point. You have to have the 50. So they mean that you got that correct. If you just wrote r prime of t, you just wrote exactly what they wrote. So that's what you're going to get for this point. Okay, what if we put the average rate equation f of b minus, do we get a point? You're back to b. Integrand, limits, and constant answer. Let me look at the question. No, unfortunately, I think that you're on the right track, which is good. But you use the other method, which is totally fine usually, but you really have to have the flexibility of both. Yeah, so I would say no, because it does say integrand. It's very specific. It says integrand, limits, and constant. Now, you did not get the correct answer. Is that right? Dustin? So, Dustin, you did not get the 258.052. Right. Yeah, so I would say no. So don't give yourself any points on that, but also don't worry because remember, 50% is almost a 4. So you don't have to get all the questions right. Okay, you don't have to get all the parts of every questions right. Okay, you want to make sure you don't leave any questions blank. Okay, now for the liters per hour will be fine in place of liters per hour squared. I would say yes, but AP is more normal to do liters per hour squared. And then liters per hour is more of an IB thing. But they would give it to you. Okay, now it says meaning. So let me change colors for you so you can see what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the meaning of r prime. So you would have to say the rate. You would have to say the water is draining or going out of the tank. You do have to say at. You have to say at t equals 3, as opposed to like say from t equals 0 to t equals 3 or something. You have to say at when you're taking derivatives. I'll tell you why it's hour squared in a minute. Okay, and then now you would need the word increasing. Okay, so the meaning is pretty complicated. That green point is pretty complicated. You would need all of this. And then you would probably need the units, but let's check. No, they didn't mention the units. I would say in the explanation, you would need the units. Did they mention the units in part C? Oh, it says using correct units. Okay, so you definitely need the units. So you need all the green parts to get the +1 green point. What if I got r prime of 3 wrong, but you wrote the right explanation? Okay, the way AP does it, none of my BC students ask me this, but this is a good question. If you have the wrong answer in a part, but you get the other part right based on that, they usually give you the points. Okay, they grade with you. And say you made an error in part B and you used it in part C, they would then redo the question. And if you got the right answer based on your errors, then you would get the point. Okay, so I would say yes, give yourself that point. Okay. Okay, now let's talk about the units. Do you want to talk about the Y? Okay, so the units, it kind of goes back a little bit to related rates. So this notation with the prime is not a good way to figure out units. The better way to find units is to write it as dr, d something. Okay, now that d something is because you have r of t equals, right? So t is your variable. So it's dr dt. Okay, so dr dt. And then think of related rates. So related rates, for example, if you had dv dt, your v is in some sort of units and your t is in some sort of units. And that would be your units, right? Like millimeters cubed per hour or something like that. Okay, now in this problem specifically, though, we don't have that. What we have is the units of r over the units of t. So the d's mean a small change, so it doesn't change the unit. So the units of r would be liters per hour, and then the units of t are hours. Okay, and that was the question. What if you had that? What if you had liters per hour? Would you also get full credit? If you didn't put increasing, I would say no, sadly. You do need to say increasing or decreasing if you're talking about a rate. The water is draining out is increasing or decreasing. Yeah. But you know what? That's the whole point. You guys, the AP test is not now. That was the whole point of the mock, is to learn this stuff. And you guys being here in the middle of the grading, asking these questions is going to make you do better on the AP test. Okay, you're going to get more questions right because you were here. Okay, and they are pretty nitpicky on certain things. Okay. This minus is because it's draining. On the next one, let me change to light blue. Okay, so the integral. Now notice it says integral, not integrand. Integral means the whole thing. So this would be 0.1. So integral means you have to also have the bounds. Okay. Okay, so integral means we also have to have the bounds. Okay, equation. Equation would be the whole thing. Okay, so you'd have to have this whole thing, and that would give you the other point. That's the equation, 1 point. Okay, any questions on those? What if you wrote 1,000 e to the instead of r of t? The only problem, no. Let me tell you why there's a no. And then Ryan, I don't know what that up arrow means. Okay. So the write but do not solve an integral, find the time, because the problem is you don't know which equation to use. So until 5, you're using 600t over t plus 3. But from 5 and on, you're using 1,000 e to the negative 0.2t. So you don't know whether it's in the first region or the second region, or if you broke it out. Oh, that's so funny. So the up arrow just means they agree with what the person above said. Okay, that's funny. But how do you know which person above? There's like tons of people above. Very cool. Okay, thank you. Thank you. The arrow just means they're agreeing with comment. Okay, okay, good. You guys are awesome. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, so D is that. So questions, if I solve the first region, okay, let me see. What if I solve the first region and just subtracted the original amount? Oh, okay, maybe. Hold on. What was your original amount? So let me do it on my calculator over here. Okay, so I'm not sure what you mean by original amount, but I'm looking at the answer to part B without the 8. So that's interesting. So in part B, before we took 1/8, it was 2064. So you already kind of know where you are until 8. So I don't know. What do you do? Can you do the integral of 3,000 instead of the subtraction? Yes. Yes. Let's see. Oh, my BC students didn't ask that, but that's because they had this question too. So I would say, or if you had the integral here equal to 3,000, I think that would be okay. So that would be okay. Now this is an or though, so don't give yourself both of those points. So that's true. And then, I mean, you could do the answer I just got, but I would have to justify it. But the answer I just got from part B was something like this. Okay, that was from part B. This is 8 times the answer in part B. And then plus the integral from 8 to A. And then I could use the 1,000 e to the negative 0.2t dt equals 3,000 or something like that. But I think that's going to be rare. I wish I could see yours. So for the now, I wonder if your answer would give you the same answer as the real answer. I don't know. I don't know what the real answer is. Who is that that's asking? And just subtracted the original amount. So Ryan, I'm going to write your name down. Okay, and then I'm going to look at your actual free response question. So we can take a look at what you mean. Okay, so this is Ryan Tiang, and this is question number 2, part D. But again, I would say if you're in doubt, then you don't give yourself the point, and then you're better off because you study more, which the integral part of the piecewise. So in solving the first region of the formula, I went, which is the integral of the first part of the piecewise. Okay, that's definitely possible, Ryan. What I want to do is I want to find out A, and if you got the same answer for A or would get the same answer as I, then it would be the same thing. Okay, so we'll see. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so I would say this is not normal. This part I just did over here. So this would be unusual. So I'm going to put a little circle around this and put unusual because I'm also going to post this PDF that I've written on. Okay, for the people who maybe can't see the video. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, usually you're going to like the non-calculator ones better because we do more non-calculator in our class. Okay, so first I want you to look at the answer here. Okay, now it says integral, so that means the whole thing, right? Integrand means the inside. Integral means that you have this whole thing. Now, I didn't do what they did. So let me show you what they did. They split the region. Okay, and they went went this way. Okay, and then they said, "Oh, look, that's a triangle." So they said this is 2, this is 2, and then they used 1/2 base times height. Okay, I don't think I would have done it that way. Did you guys set it up this way instead? 6 minus x dx from 4 to 6. Okay, so if you put that instead of this portion, okay, so if you put that instead of this portion, that's definitely okay. Yes, I did dy also, so I'm going to show you the dy way. And the dy way also gives you the point. Thank you for telling me what the arrows mean. Okay, that's so awesome. Okay, so and I will show you how we can assign the points with the dy. Okay, so good job. And that's, again, that's why we're here. Okay, so antiderivative. if you did it the X way. Did anybody do it the X way? Did anybody do it the X way? Okay, good. So we have some people doing it the X way. Okay, so the points are assigned here, here. If you did it the X way, then these are the points. Okay, so those are the points for the X way. And what's kind of cool is after this experience, you guys, you can grade your own if you want. Okay, I'm going to change this into black because I don't want you to think that you had to have that for any reason. So this is just another way. And this was 4 to 6. Okay, but that black isn't worth any points. Okay, so I did it DY. So I did it DY when I looked at this question. Of course I would do it DY, right? Why wouldn't you do it? Well, I don't know. DX was pretty awesome too, so I don't want to judge. Okay, so let me show you the way that if you did it DY. Okay, so if you did it DY, the nice thing is about DY is the right side is always the same and the left side is always the same, so you don't have to split the integrals. So let's put DY. Okay, so we're going to do it the DY way. So, and that DY is just, this is just the DY method. You wouldn't label that on your actual test. Okay, and then I call it X right minus X left, but most of you just call it right minus left. And you wouldn't have to write that. That's not where our points are distributed. Now, why I write that is I want to make sure that I solve for X. So up here at the top, you have Y equals radical X. So you have to solve for X. X equals Y squared. And then Y equals 6 minus X. That's X plus Y equals 6. And then you have to do X equals 6 minus Y. So your X right, let's see, your X right would be the line. So this is your X right. And then your X left would be Y squared. Get your comments back up here. Okay, so if you were going to do it that way, and then I'm going to give you the points this way. I'll show you how the points are distributed. Okay, but this would be X right, which is 6 minus Y, minus Y squared, and then dy. And then your bounds would have been 0 to 2, which are Y bounds. Okay, so let me show you how the points would have been distributed. Okay, so the integral would have been this whole integral. You should have the dy. We don't know whether they would take off a point if you don't have the dy. The cut in half triangle thing. Okay, that's fine. And that's okay too. Notice that's not assigned any points, but the cut in half triangle way is the +2. That's how you get the 22/3. Okay, so some people did the X. Okay, and then some people did dy. So you could definitely use either way. So this would be the point if you're doing it the dy. This is the purple point. And then the dark blue point, what's it say? It says the antiderivative. Okay, so let me take the antiderivative. Hold on, I haven't finished this one. So this would be 6y minus y squared over 2 minus y cubed over 3. From 0 to 2. And then, you would show your work, and then you'd get 22/3 because you're on the non-calculator section. So I'm going to put here, show work. Okay. So, but how were the points distributed? The antiderivative would be this part. So this would be this point. And then the answer still would be the 22/3. That would be the 1 point. Okay, so that's 1 point. How'd you guys do on that one? I'm so sorry they removed that topic from the... But they also removed... Not that one. They removed accumulations as well. But we don't know. We're hoping at Walnut High School, because we taught you all the material, we're hoping that it gives you 6 questions and then you get to pick 3. So I sent a little email. It was Mrs. Tefengshin's idea, but I sent a little email to Culture Board and said, hey, what about schools that go in a different order? Or schools that have finished. Can you give the students all 6 questions and then they can pick 3? My idea was give you 4 questions and then pick 3. But Ms. Tefengshin said, why not put the 2 questions that they took off? So hopefully that helps. But maybe not. We'll see. We'll know more this week, I think, April 3rd. And then we'll let you know. Okay, but either way, you guys are going to be way more prepared than other schools. And we grade on the curve. They grade on the curve, very much on the curve. Okay, so your guys are going to be fine. Okay, B. Now B is actually using sideways because it says perpendicular to the y-axis. So you're doing sideways ones. Okay, so sideways. So integrand, let's just look at the points. Okay, so the integrand, what did integrand mean? So when you're doing the grading. So integrand means this inside part. Okay, and let me show you how they got that just because we're here. But we can definitely show you the solutions to this later. Okay, like more of the work, you know, like what work would you actually show, not just the solutions. But it says it's 2y. So whatever the y value, it's 2y. So it says it's 2 times the height, right? No, it just says 2y. So the height is 2y, and then this is x right minus x left. You wouldn't call it that. You'd probably call it just right minus left. Okay, and that's how they got this. So this is x right, this is x left, and then this is the 2y that they said the height, because it's a rectangle. So the red is the integrand. So if you got the bounds wrong, they would still give you the point for the 2 points for the integrand. And then they're giving you the answer point, which is this, not the black, but this part without the black. Maybe let me undo that for you. Okay, so the answer would be if you got this part, including the right integral and including the 0 to 2. Okay, any questions on part B? Questions on part B? What if the 6 minus y and the y squared is switched? Part A or part B? Landon, part A or part B? Yes, you didn't have to put the word volume. Part B. The way they assign the points, Landon, I think you would get 0, which is terrible. Because I feel like you knew what you were doing. You solved for x. It might give you a mercy point, if there is such a thing. But it says the integrand. Now, usually they'll say something like, if they switch them, give them one of these points. So it's possible that they add that in the grading later, but probably not. So be real careful. Okay. So let's see. Okay, the next one. There's a point on the graph at which the tangent line is perpendicular to the graph. Okay. So that's interesting. So they're saying that this line right here, if it kept going, and you make a tangent line, perpendicular. Okay, whoever's coughing, you got to turn your sound on. Unless you want to talk. If you want to talk, you can absolutely turn your sound on and ask me a question. Okay, so those don't look perpendicular. So I'm thinking, where would that tangent line be if it was going to be perpendicular? Okay, so maybe here. Maybe here it would hug it, make it perpendicular. Okay, but how are we going to get that to actually work? I'm going to have to find the slope of the curve and make it perpendicular to the line. So this is the line's equation, right? So what's the slope of G? Slope of G is -1. Yes, you could write that. Let me see. You could put the 2y in the back. So I'll put an or for other people here. Okay, so the question was, can you write 6 minus y squared and then the 2y in the back? I would say yes, definitely. That's a definite yes. Okay, so, and you have the 0 to 2. So this is okay also. Okay, so the order, let's put no y squared minus 6 minus y. And then hold on, did I misread Landon's question? Yeah, no, he did say that those were switched. Okay. Okay. So I'm putting not. So this is no point. That sounds so mean, okay, but that would be no point. Okay, so let's go over here. What if you simplified it? That would be okay. You could simplify it. Hopefully you simplified it right. Okay. If you simplified it wrong, they might take off a point. So, okay, so this one is saying that G prime is -1 if you put M equals -1, but we don't even know if that's a point. And then how would you find a perpendicular? A perpendicular would be flip it and change the sign. Okay, but again, these aren't points. These are just how you kind of solve the problem sometimes. Okay, so what they have here for their points, let me change colors on you, is there say f prime of x. So f prime of x, if you have this, and even if you had 1/2 x to the -1/2, I think you would also get a point. Okay, so I'll put or. So if you have one of these two answers, they would give you a point. Can you say v instead of volume? Notice I didn't put any colors on the word volume. So if you don't have the word volume and you don't have the word width, then you're good. Ms. Function just sent me an email, so let me invite her to our Google class. Come to our live Google class. Oh, there we go. I'm going to say, say hi. Okay. There we go. I don't know what her real question was, but I figure that means she's online, so maybe she's on. Okay, so anyway, so the purple is right there. Equation. So the equation they're talking about is this equation. That would be another point. Okay, so back to the volume question on part B. The volume, the width, none of that is really worth any points. It's only what I'm circling and boxing in the colors that are worth points. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. I'll have to answer Mr. Function's thing later. Okay, let's see. This one is x equals 1/4 and x equals 1/4. No, that x equals 1/4 is not the point because the point said the whole answer and it said coordinate. So this, you would have to have this. Okay, you don't have to have any of the words in between. So you do not have to have the explanation points unless they ask you. Okay, so you don't have to say V. You don't have to say thus a line perpendicular to the graph has a slope of 1. But you just never know. So you might as well write what you have when you're doing it because you don't know how they're going to assign the points. But usually if they assign explanation points, they do say explain or something like that. Okay. Any more questions on this one? Did you do better on this one than on 1 and 2? So far, what was your best question out of the 3? Oh, and they're worth 9 points each. I don't know if you know. Oh, I love seeing these numbers. This is cool. Okay. Yeah, right. We want there to be this area volume question. They suck. They took off the part that we like. But that's okay, you guys. We have plenty of time to study for the other questions. Okay. Okay. It'll be nice because we already have plans on how we prepare you for free responses. So that's what we were going into next anyway. Is each free, yes, it's at a 9. And yes, they're all out of the same number of points. 9 total for each of them. And then I would imagine they're going to do the same thing. I mean, it's 45 questions and each of our questions is 15 minutes. So I would say there's going to be 3. But we don't know that until later in the week. I think Friday we'll know. But you're going to be prepared no matter what. Okay, so just do what your teachers are asking you to do and you'll be prepared. Can you zoom in real for part C? There you go. And am I much clearer than before? Is my Wi-Fi, is my mobile hotspot better than my my internet? Okay, good. It's because I'm in a different room. I'm not in the room where my main internet is. So I have an extension It's called ext, but I have an extension, so it's like it bounces the signal a little farther, and usually it's pretty good, but today it's been pretty bad. So a couple times I went into the room where the actual Wi-Fi is. Okay, so I really appreciate you guys telling me that I sounded horrible. How come it's not -1? Because I need it to be perpendicular. So this is the original slope, and then I need the other slope, I'll call it M perpendicular, to be remember you flip it. So because you're doing perpendicular, you're flipping it and then changing the sign. So like if this was -5, then this would be 1/5. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, let's talk about that. So that's such a, no one in BC said that, but I'm sure that happened to some people. We really have to be careful there. So that's why you can't just look at the answer. So I would say if you had a -1, so let me put a little note here in the blue area. Okay, this is +1, right? If you had 1/2 radical x equals -1, then I would say +0 for this section. But I still think that you would get the green. Yeah, you got it right, because a plus or -1, they blew it. They should have made it. They should have made it so that didn't happen. So when you squared both sides, it turned out to be positive. Yeah, so I'd give yourself the green point. It says the answer. It doesn't say the answer with every single step of work before it correct. So Joanne, I would give yourself those points. Okay, let's do the next one. Okay. And this will be available later. Remember, you can watch this later. You can also send a message in that Google Classroom on any of the ones that mention like this video. And you can put notes and then I can answer it. Okay, or your teacher can answer it. You guys have amazing teachers. Okay. I mean, you're so lucky. I would love to be in any of their classes. Mr. Chen, Miss Nicholas, and Mr. Fengshen. They're so awesome. Okay, so let's see. Okay, on part A, did you guys do number lines? Because my method is usually a number line method. Okay, so I'm going to show you the number line method and figure out how we could assign the points like that. Okay, so so the number line method would be f prime of x equals 4 minus x over x cubed for x is greater than 0. Okay, so I would make a number line. Now this says critical point and relative max, relative min, or neither. Okay, so if you make your number line, you should start at 0. You should label it. Goes on forever. I need to set it equal to 0 or undefined. So 4 and 0, but 0 is already on it. So I would set this equal to 0. So we do get the 4. And then you substitute a number in. So say I substituted in 1. F prime of 1 is positive. And 5 would be negative. Make sure you label your number lines, though. Yes, local max instead of relative max is okay. I'd use the word in the problem, though. But yes, local max and relative are the same. But they said determine whether it's a relative max. So I'd use the word in the problem. But give yourself the point if you said local max. Okay, and then this means f is increasing and f is decreasing. Okay, so x equals 4 is pretty clear. Let me change colors on this here. So x equals 4 is your critical point. Okay, so that's worth 1 point. Not what's written before it, just what's in the box. Yes, if it said for all x, or if they didn't mention it, then you wouldn't put it on the number line. Actually, 0 would go on the number line because it's undefined. So technically, when you're making number lines, you are supposed to do 0 or undefined. We just forget the undefined ones. But if you check your notes, when we had denominators, we do put that on the number line. So if it didn't say it, I would still have it. I would have 0 on the number line. I would have 4 on the number line because 0 is undefined there. So this is this was a what if question. So if it was what if it was all x, I would still do this, and then it would still be plus and minus, And then what's -1? -1 would be negative. So actually the sign is different there. And then this is an asymptote actually. So this would be decreasing. And it would look like this, decreasing towards the asymptote. You wouldn't really draw it like that in the number line. And then increasing, decreasing. Yeah, so definitely you would need the 0 on the number line or you wouldn't have even caught the difference. So that was a good what if question. So this right here is a what if question. What if? Okay. So 0 undefined. And then that's it. Now relative maximum. So you would have to just say the word relative maximum somewhere. Okay, so relative maximum, you have to say that somewhere. Okay, that's 1 point. So you're gonna have to put that. And then the justification, you can't just say look at the number line. So the justification, you would say something like this, but you wouldn't have to say it exactly like that. I feel like you could say left, right, or you have some cool ways that your teachers have you say it. Oh, that's a very good question on the 0. Okay, so let's finish just the green for a minute. So on the green, your teachers have some good ways to describe it. Like, I think they say F prime, we'll put or, F prime changes from positive to negative at x equals 4. That would be a fine justification for the green. Yes, perfect. Yeah, Joanne, that's perfect. I think and that would give you all the points. I like that. Just can you say F is increasing before and then decreasing after? I like that too. So you could say F changes from increasing to decreasing at x equals 4. I think that would be fine too. And the before and after I think is fine too. So this would be another or. Now you can't say F prime increases though, because that means F double prime. Okay, so you'd have to say F changes. Yeah, so F is increasing before. The way you said it is fine. And then the way, Joanne, you said it, F prime changes from positive to negative. Those are both fine. Okay, and then I would have the support of the number. Okay, let's talk about the minimum. That's a very good point. Relative extrema have to be on the inside. Okay, so there's 2 reasons that 0 is not a relative minimum. One is relative minimums don't occur at endpoints. Okay, so relative minimums do not occur at endpoints. The other reason is 0 is actually an asymptote. So look at my what if line. So I'm gonna, wow, that's kind of cool. Okay, so my what if over here. Okay, my what if. My what if, that 0 is an asymptote. Do you not get a point if you don't say F? Did you say it changes from positive to negative? Or it changes from increasing to decreasing? Yeah, I would say no. Beware of the word it. You have to be specific. It is possible they would give you the point because you wrote F prime on your number line. So maybe. I'd say no, but hopefully they give it to you on the real test. Okay, so don't give yourself the point now, but let's hope that on the real test that they give you that point. I know 0 is wrong. Will all 3 points be taken off? No, definitely not. Did you have the x equals 4 and the relative max? Okay. And you have the justification for the relative max. Yeah. So what do we do if you also give an extra 0? Oh, I don't know. There is one circumstance that if you do a problem in 2 ways, and one way's right and one way's wrong, and you leave both ways there, and one answer's right, one answer's wrong, they average them and then round down. So I would give yourself at least 1 point. So give yourself 1 point, and then just think, if you're right on the border, then, maybe give yourself another point if you need it to get a higher score. Okay. Or just give yourself 1 point. That'd be safer. I don't know. I wish we had a math teacher guest. Let's see. Do we have Miss Tefanction? Did she come and visit? She is here. Miss Tefanction, can you type? Can you answer this question for me? Let me tell you what the question was. The question is, you don't have to speak, you can type. The question is on A. How many points would the person get if they put x equals 0, relative min, and a justification for that, and also put the x equals 4 relative max and the justification? What do you think? 0! Okay. So we don't know. So I would say it could go either way. I'm going to go with 1. She's going with 0. So we're definitely not going with 2. Okay. So I don't know. It's definitely possible. Definitely could be 0. Definitely could be 1. 0 for the x equals 4 only. Oh, okay. No, but yeah, but that person also put relative min for the 0. And the justification was right. We want to know how much total. So maybe 1? Because technically the yeah, I don't know. 1. Okay. Miss Tefanction and I think 1. So we're going to go with 1. Okay. Good. Glad we have some more advice over here and not just me. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So let's look at the next part. It says find all intervals on which the graph is concave down. Okay, so concave down, let me change colors for you. So it's now, this is 2 points. Now that does not say 1 point for something and 1 point for something else. So that's 2 points if you got this right. Now I would say you're going to have it out of order. Okay, because we do the product rule in a different order than they do the product rule in. So I would say, not they, but whoever wrote this question. I think you would have probably had, I forgot my 3. Okay, so that's the more normal order. And of course you would need the f double prime of x in it. Thanks, Mr. Function. Oh, is that new? They do 2 solutions with different answers. They need to cross one out. Well, definitely you should cross one out, but what if you don't? I've heard they only grade the first one. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't know. You know, I haven't been to an AP conference in a while, so maybe they change. That's very interesting. Well, don't have 2 answers. That's not bad. That's not good either. Definitely. And then if they do, they average them out and then round down. So sometimes you get no points. So it's not good anyway. Okay, let's see. Does not say you have to simplify it. So notice what I'm boxing in red. You just have to have the unsimplified version or this unsimplified version. Okay, so one of those unsimplified version is 1 point for one or the other. Answer with justification. It says final intervals where it's concave down. Justify your answer. Okay, so the answer would be this. So we have this answer right here. And that's also the justification. Well, I guess I would put this as the answer because f double prime is less than 0. And you should probably put the x too, but if you didn't have the x, it would do. Okay. So let me erase this part. So that's what I would write. Okay, so that's your justification. And that's for this 1 point. Answer with justification. Can you say f prime is decreasing? No, you cannot, because f prime is not decreasing. That means f double prime. Oh, are you talking about for B? Can you say f prime is decreasing? F prime is decreasing. It's actually correct. I guess so. With the explanation, F is concave down as F double prime is negative in that range work. Yes, perfect. Landon, perfect. That's perfect. Prableen, you're talking about part B, is that correct? Yes. Yes. I think it's better to be specific, but it's true. I think you get the point. I think you can have another justifiable, that justification works too. Okay, any other questions on this part? If you think it's weird, I'm just an icon. There is an actual video of me and my face, but it's not the same one I'm doing the tablet on. The tablet has the video off because otherwise it shows my ceiling because my tablet's facing up. So I could not figure out another way to do that. So my camera on my TV is actually facing me. Okay, so let's see. Part C, given that f of 1 equals 2, determine the function f. Okay, so integral. Let me change colors on you again. So integral is this point. Now integral, remember, integral includes the bounds. Okay, so integral with the bound would be plus 1. Antiderivative is this part. That would be plus 1. That's my blue plus 1. Answer. Would be this part, and it would be okay if you simplified it. So if I said what Landon said, but right, because there's a negative sign in between the interval, meaning it's concave down. Are you talking about in reference to the number line? You said there's a negative sign in between the interval, meaning it's concave down. They don't like number lines, but we love number lines. Okay, so we love number lines as a way to organize our work, but AP has specifically said that a number line cannot be a justification. Okay, so I'll answer your question in a minute, Ethan, but let me go back to B. So I would say that if you are not specific about what you're referencing on the number line, you're not going to get the point. So the negative sign in between the interval is not going to work because they're not going to know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the F prime number line? Are you talking about the F double prime number line? They, like I said, they don't really like number lines. So although our students do really well and we teach them number lines. So I'm not telling you not to make number lines because I make number lines. Most teachers make number lines. Okay. But just beware of your explanation has to be specific. You describe the number line so that they don't have to look at your number line. Would an unsimplified integrand be okay? Oh, did they simplify it? Yes. Yes. I love your questions. I'm glad we're doing these live videos because sometimes I think, well, do we really want it live? I do like it live because if I make a mistake, you guys tell me. So let me do another or on the red. Can I write out here? No, I can't write. Okay. So you could have had on the, oh, I'm on C. Okay, so hold on, I got to zoom way out. Okay, so you could have had, we'll put or here. You could have had 4 minus x, x to the negative 3 dx. And you would have had to have whatever those numbers are, but I got to zoom in. So, but you would have had to have this. So the integral. So this is also okay for the integral. Okay, so I'm going to put plus 1. This is an or plus 1. Make sure you don't give yourself both plus 1s, okay? Then you're going to get yourself too many points. What if I get an equivalent answer for the light blue, but it's written differently? That's okay. The plus C is not going to work. You'd have to find the plus C. But let me figure out where I would give you the points for that. Instead of writing plus 2, I put plus C, and then you found out what C was. Okay, did C turn out to be 3? What if using an infinite integral solve for C to get the equation? Yes. Would an unsimplified integral be okay for C? Yes. Yes, as long as you got the right answer. So what would another alternative be here? So let me do it in black. So what you're saying is you're saying that you said f of x equals the integral of 4t to the negative 3 minus t to the negative 2 dt. And then you took the antiderivative and you got 4t to the negative 2 over negative 2 minus t to the negative 1 over negative 1 plus c. And then you substituted in their information, which was f of 1 equals 2. Right? So you substituted in a 1 here. So negative 2, 1 to the negative 2 minus, oh my gosh, what a mess that is. 1 plus c equals 2. So then you have negative 2 over 1 squared plus 1 plus c equals 2. C equals 2 plus 2 minus 1, which is 3. And then you went back here and said f of x equals negative 2 t to the negative 2 plus t to the negative 1 plus 3. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's figure out how we can assign those points if you did it a different way. Okay, cool. Technically, accumulation functions have been taken off the test. So the way that you did it would be the way that they would expect you to do it, because accumulation functions are not technically there anymore. Okay, so what would we do? We would still give you the integral. Okay, so I would say plus 1 here. This is an or. This is another method. And then the blue one would have to include the c. And then the light blue one would be this whole thing. And let me write alternative method, so it's real clear to people who aren't here. Alternative method and points. Okay. So what do you think? That's good, you guys. Different method? That's awesome. Okay. So this live is definitely the way that we need to be doing this. Okay. So any other questions? You guys are so funny with those arrows up. The arrow up, I never knew. Now, is that a new thing with Google Meet, or that's like always been one? If I wrote X instead of T. Oh. Oh, like I just did right here. Hold on. I put X. Gosh, you guys, you asked me such good questions here. I don't know how the College Board's going to grade. Let's see. So if you had X's instead of T's, actually, you're supposed to have X's. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah, where did I get T's? Yeah, I would have had X's. Okay, so that's a good question. So let me tell you in both spots, okay? So let's talk about the red spot first. So the question was, can I have X's instead of T's? So I would say right here, in the original way they solved it, if you had X and a DX, they would still give you full credit. Oh, Mr. Main. Say hi to Mr. Main. Excellent. Mr. Main, we're doing, they took a mock AP in AB Calc with for Ms. Tefengchen, Mrs. Nicholas, and Mr. Chen, and then I'm just giving them the live solutions. So we're correcting it. We're using the College Board's free response solutions and trying to figure out how to grade the work they already did so they can submit the scores. Okay, they're asking me such detailed questions like, how is College Board going to assign the points? So sometimes it's a guess. But Miss Tefengshan was here just a minute ago, so I was just going to scroll down and find her. Okay, so I would say they did ask for f of x. So I would say here where I wrote all these with t's. Hold on. Where I wrote all those with t's, I would say those should be x's actually. So you guys here, you guys didn't put t's, right? You put x's. So this is absolutely 100% correct. Oops, except I just put t's again. Okay. So if you put an x here, that's going to be more normal than the t. So yes, they would give you full credit. Okay, and actually, they probably wouldn't give me full credit for the t's because where the heck did the t come from? Okay, so is that the answer that you got? Joanne, I didn't know that. Nice. And you're brilliant too. Here in AP Calculus. You guys, AP Calculus at most schools, they don't even get to AP Calculus. It's just at Walnut that we go so far and so fast in math. So if you're in AP Calculus, no matter what your grade you're in, you're like a stud. Oh, that's nice. So Joanne's a basketball player? Okay, cool. Nice. Hey, Mr. Maine, Mrs. E said that if we end up not coming back to school, she was going to be missing all her students. And so she told me today that it would be nice if we had a meetup in the summer when we can finally meet up again and say goodbye because she's retiring this year. Okay, calculating those problems to the net, right? You can find the relative maximums. Okay, nice, Mr. Maine. Yeah, that was awesome. It was really fun. I was talking to Mrs. E today about Google Classroom. She's awesome. Okay, when we get to go clear. Nice. Yeah, you guys, we needed a break anyway. So much math here. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, Nisha, do you have siblings? Do you have brothers or sisters? I've taught somebody with your last name before. Whoosh, whoosh, Giovanna. Giovanna, you could unmute and sing us a song. A calculus song. We need a calculus song. Oh, okay. Cousin. Cool. Cool. You guys, any questions left on this one, or can I go to the next one? Next. Okay, how'd you do on this one? Is this your new favorite question? Okay, tables. Okay, we definitely need to practice these tables. I know that my HL students, they're going to take the BC test, and I have to teach them tables. We're going to work on that next week because we were concentrating for the IB test, but now we're switching over to the BC test. So I was talking about their tables. So we're going to need to work on that. Okay, so let's see. Ben rides the unicycle back and forth around a straight east-west road. Okay, I don't have to read the question because we're just going over the solutions. You guys, I will absolutely show you my solutions. Or maybe Mr. Chen, we'll see. I think Mr. Chen's going to do the multiple choice solutions and make the YouTube video on that for you guys. And then I might do the free response, just write them in my own handwriting and take pictures because these solutions are how to grade them. But sometimes you wouldn't show your work exactly this way, and then that might help you. Okay. So let's see, AF5. Okay, so the answer. And I know you guys are going to ask me about the units, right? So let's see if they talked about the units later. They did. So look at the very bottom. They talked about the units way down here, and they said the units in part A or B. I love that word, or. So they're saying you either had to have these units right, or you had to have these units right. Okay, so this is an or. If you had one of these, you get +1 for the units. Okay, so the blue, you get +1 right here. So give yourself a +1 if you had that. Okay. Usually only my HL students get to grade. They grade on the weekend that you guys take the mock exam, and they grade for like 6 or 7 hours, but then they're the only ones who get the experience of grading. Can you keep it in fraction form? Definitely. I would give you the point. AP doesn't care if you simplify. So you wouldn't even have to put, now you could also put what, 3/100? Okay, so any of those answers would give you 1 point. Can you abbreviate meters to M or seconds to S? Yes. Standard, as long as you use the standard things, you can. For A, can you keep it in fraction form? Okay, good. Does that include the units? No, because the green includes the units. They do it later. Okay, Mr. Main left. You guys are so nice welcoming him. He's an awesome principal. Okay, so can you abbreviate meters? Yes. For part D, I used related rates. Is that okay? Well, hold on. I'm not to D yet. You're too speedy. Probably. Probably you're okay. Hold on. Let's see. So hold on. Let me get there. Okay, so if you didn't put meters in the meaning of the integral. Okay, hold on. So meaning of the integral. This is the total distance. Oh, that's a hard question. Let's not count the units because they're not going to want to count the units twice. And then I wouldn't say that you would have to say the 60-second interval, but you should put the word from. I think you need total distance. You probably don't need the word Ben. Rides. So this is what I think you need. Okay. Total distance. You could put he, rides over or from. I probably wouldn't even say over. I would say that he rides from. So if you, at minimum, if you have my red. Okay. Minimum if you have my red. Approximation. Okay, so that is, let me go for purple. Approximation would be if you have the 139. If you didn't put meters in the meaning, you get it wrong. So I would say no, because I feel like the meters is part of the green. And then if I was doing this, I really wouldn't have put the 40 minus 10. I probably would have put the 30 and the 20. Draw a picture. Okay, difference quotient. So you might not know what the difference quotient is. Let's see, what color should I use? Orange? Okay, so difference quotient is like the algebra slope. You've never thought of it that way, but look, it's differences on the top, differences on the bottom, and then quotient because it's a division. Okay, so the difference quotient would be this or this one. And then maybe you have 60 minus 40. That would be okay too in the denominator. So if you showed that, they would give you the points for the difference quotient. Conclusion with justification. Did they mention mean value theorem? They did not. So for the justification, you would have to have the word mean value theorem. Conclusion with justification. You have to say yes. They never said yes. Must there be a time? So, I mean, I would say yes. Yeah. So, didn't you put yes? Did you guys put yes or no? But did you at least answer one of those two? Because to me, it seems weird that they didn't quite even say yes or no. So, yes, the mean value theorem implies there is a time such that this. So, I would say you definitely have to say that. I usually use the C, and I would say you need all of these things to get the +1. I think this would be a hard point to get, the mean value theorem point. Okay, so this is +1. You can see where it is. Are you understanding my color coding? Do you think your friends who are looking at this later, because we only have 40 people, do you feel like the other 160 AB students, if they watch this, they'll understand the color coding? Because they're not going to see your comments. The comments are separate. I can't figure out how to have the comments in the video. Okay, so let's see. So in this part, Any questions on any of those? No? Okay, derivatives. Let's see. You used related rates. Okay, so what I'm assuming that you meant is you called this 2L of t dL dt equals 2B of t, or just B dB dt. And I would say that's equivalent. So this would be an or. Okay, does that answer your question to part D? How do we know when to use mean value theorem or IVT? We have a worksheet on that. We usually give it at this time of year, so we'll definitely need to talk to. I'll talk to Ms. Tefenction about that. Let me write that down. IVT versus MVT. And you know what? I think my HL students will want that too. So maybe I'll make a video on that. Okay. Why isn't this IVT? Okay, so if it happens to be related to a derivative, and this one is velocity. Okay, so if I wanted the velocity to be 2 meters, I would need one velocity to be higher than 2. I'll call it 2 plus. And then I need another velocity to be lower than 2. And then I could use IVT. So I would use IVT in that situation. But because we have S's, well, let's see. We do have V's. Do we have any of his velocity being higher or lower than 2? Let me see. Oh, because it's Ben's velocity. Hold on. Okay, so we could use either. Okay. So we could use IVT on the V's. This is a very good question regarding IVT, MVT. Okay, so I could use IVT on these, but I would have to have 2 in between some of the values. So if I plotted this one, I'm going to have 0, 2, and then 2.3, and then 2.5, and then 4.6. So if you're telling me that 2 is right here, it doesn't work. Now, if it were 3, and 3 is right here, I could use IVT on any of these. Okay, so this would be V of t with IVT if it said V equals 3. But since V equals 2, it's not going to work. So then they decided, okay, that didn't work. So if that didn't work, is there another way to find velocity? So what they did is they did slope. Okay, so they did slope instead. Oh, this is a really hard point. Okay, so they did slope instead. So they said, in this case, I don't know which ones they did. Which did they do? They did 60 and 40. Okay. Oh, it says 460 to 40 specifically. Okay, so we couldn't have looked at the whole thing anyway. So you can only look from here to here. So 2's not between there. So what they did instead is they said, oh, okay, let's convert to mean value theorem, and we'll do the slope between the endpoints instead. That's a tricky one. I'm going to write this question down because I want my HL students to do it. So this is on the mock, AB, and this is MVT versus IVT. This is so interesting because this was back in 2001, and they've only recently been focusing more on IVT and MVT. So it's very odd that this one is a very good comparison between the two. Okay, so that's very interesting. Good questions. Let's see, lots of questions that you guys have. So you can't use IVT to prove it wrong. You can only use it to prove it right. Yes. Yes. You cannot use IVT to prove it wrong. Unless you were doing the contrapositive, which is basically saying that the answer is wrong because, yeah, no, you can't. Interesting. Why do you need to convert to MVT? Yeah, I'll make a whole video just on this problem, and then I'll post it to yours as well. MVT, IVT, that's really, really tricky. Okay. And some of these points, I feel like nobody gets. When you look on the College Board website and you look up the scoring guidelines, they also tell you, I think there's another one, I don't remember what it's called, but there's something else that it tells you how many average points people got for this question. And sometimes it's very low, like three out of 9 is the average of all you super studly calculus students. And that, and sometimes it's like 2 and 2.3. And you're like, how in the world? Well, because sometimes the questions are like impossible. So I would say, I don't know, how C would definitely be tricky. So I will make a separate solution to C and show you why it doesn't work, because my answer isn't quite as clear. That's interesting that none of my BC students asked me that, but I don't think they got it right because they knew what they were doing. Or I think they just got it wrong. And so then they just didn't give themselves the points. Okay, so let's see over here. The points for this one. It says uses B prime equal to V. So that would be, you would change this into V. Now, even if you had made an error in the step above, they're basically saying, did you convert dB dt or B prime into V? Now, that's if you used it anywhere. You wouldn't have had to solve it. Okay, so these two right here are +1. And then the answer is the last one. Oh, let's not use green because green was already used for the units. So let me not use green. Okay. And units, did it say the units? No. Okay. Is this the worst question so far? Is this the lowest one? What's your worst question so far out of 9? 2. Okay. 1. Okay. So this one wasn't that bad. This one, yeah, this one's hard. 1 and 5. This one, yeah. 3. Okay. Different people know different things. That's good. Okay. Okay, so let's go on to the last one. Sorry, it's taking so long, but I love your questions. Oh, this is the one where I need to go. This is a terrible copy. It's very blurry. So very, very, very blurry. So I made a new copy. Okay. So let me go back to here. Just make sure any other questions on this one, because I'm going to go to a different file. Okay, and then you got to make sure that you upload these solutions to us, or we're not going to know how you did. And then your teachers won't know which free responses you need to practice. And it looks like you might need to practice, everybody has to practice different ones. So if you upload it, there's going to be a spot where it says upload your solutions, and not your solutions, but your scores. You got 8 possible points for 3. Don't know. So take a picture of the screen right here. Okay, so take a picture because it was 333. You said number 3. Was this number 3? Yeah. So take a picture of this and then you can look later, okay? For part B, did you get 3 possible points? Oh yeah, you're trying to help him solve or her. I don't know your names. Solve the problem. So take a picture and then you can see where it is. Okay, so this one, questions on this one, I'm going to hit save. Okay, because I'm going to upload that document also, but then I have this better number 6. That's what I was doing right there at the beginning of our meeting. Okay, so number 6, look how clear this one is. Yes, the integrand is worth 2 points on that one. Yeah, that's probably where. Perfect, so you solved that problem. Okay, good. So let's look at where the points are. Okay, antiderivative. Okay, antiderivative would be here. Interesting. They said antiderivative, so I really feel like this is the only spot you actually took the antiderivative. Okay, and then the answer would be 1. Now that's 6 pi squared. This is where you're going to want to see like an actual solution, because that 6 pi squared is because the base is 2 pi and the height is 2 pi. And then this one, this is 1/2 base times height. And then this other one, so that's for this one. And then for this one, this is 1/2, right? 4 pi would be this. And then its height would be 2 pi. 2 pi. So that would be, and those are both using area equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, so they're using the integral of the picture to figure this out. So this would be 2 pi squared plus 4 pi squared, which is 6 pi squared. So that's where they got the 6 pi. So I really don't think these are necessarily great solutions. They're just the scoring. Remember, where I'm training you how to score, not training you how to do the problems. Yeah, so I would say these would be the points, because there's only 2 points. They said antiderivative. 6 pi squared is not the antiderivative. So they said antiderivative. Antiderivative means the antiderivative. So I would say it has to be the purple. Okay, so the purple is the antiderivative. And then the answer would be the 2 pi, and that's it. But just so you know, this is how you solve it. So I can solve these for you. I'll solve them in a video. I'll solve them in a video for you so that you could see what all the work is as well. Sure. Okay, so the question is, could you change the bounds? So if you used u equals x over 2, then x equals 4 pi means u equals 2 pi. And x equals negative 2 pi. Let me write that neater for people who aren't here. Okay, good question though. So this is kind of the purple, right? So you're saying if I use, so we're going to put an or. So that means that x equals 4 pi becomes u equals 2 pi, and x equals negative 2 pi becomes u equals negative pi. So the question is, could you put 2 sine u from negative pi to 2 pi? And I would say yes, as long as you have the bounds too. So you would have to have the bounds. So you could get an or point for this one. Good question, Ethan. Actually, College Board likes that. They have that usually in a multiple choice area. So I don't know if they would put that in a free response and just say set up only with use. I don't know how they would exactly word it. But converting the use is definitely a possibility. Okay, so good question. B, let's see what B says. And again, I'll solve these. We're not trying to solve them right now. Solving will take longer. You wouldn't have had to, well, they're saying this. That's what this means. So they're saying that you took the derivative correctly right there. Okay, so they want to know, did you take the derivative correctly? G prime. Oh, just G prime, probably. Just G prime. There's nothing to substitute in for G prime. So just G prime. So just G prime is worth 1. Okay, and then x equals 0 is worth 1. Now, did it say where does it not exist? What's it say? Find critical points. Okay, so remember, you do have to find out where it might not exist. Okay, and this one is piecewise, so that's why it doesn't exist there. Wow, that's crazy. Okay, plus 1. You might not have. x equals pi. So x equals pi. So I mean, technically, this purple is down here, right? Okay. Gosh, we still have 37 people. That's amazing. You guys are awesome. Okay, no, it's 9. I don't mind. Sorry for keeping you so late. I just wrote x equals 0 and not f does not. Yes. Yes, you still get the point. So the point is only for the x equals 0. Yeah, right? Isn't that nice? But you never know. You never know what they decide. So it's good to be careful anyway. On these videos, can you guys even see my face? I know you see my little picture, but do you see my face in the other one? You do? Okay. Just checking if I have to brush my hair. Okay. Okay. That's the one that it's recording on, but I don't think it actually doesn't record my face. It only records the person talking, but the person talking isn't my face. It's my picture of my face. Okay. Okay, so let's see. We're on the last part. Okay, last part. We're almost done. Okay, so let me change colors. What color haven't we used? Green. Okay, I came up with this color coding when I was doing the BC mock. Okay, so H prime would be this. So that would be the points. You just get plus 2 points for that. And then the answer, 3 pi, is also worth 1 point. How did that go? That piecewise was a little complication. So I will definitely show you the work that I would show. And probably the work that I would show would be the work that Miss Nicholas would show, Mr. Chen would show, Mr. Fengshen would show. And you got to watch Mr. Chen's videos where he's explaining the multiple choice questions. And you got to talk to Miss Nicholas. She loves teaching you guys. She misses teaching you guys so much. Okay, and Mr. Fengshen too. It's just Mr. Fengshen and Miss Nicholas, they don't think they like their voice. So if they do ever do a video, you got to tell them that they're awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh, we understand it so clearly. I like your voice. Okay. Because none of us like our voice. Okay. So whenever we hear ourselves on video, we're like, no, we don't like our voice. Okay. So it was funny. Miss Nicholas told me, oh, you have a nice voice, Miss Nichols. And I was thinking, no, I don't. But, desperate times. I hope you guys are all healthy. Okay, so let's see. You guys want to see if I can find the grading? I think I can find the scores. You guys want to total your scores and total your multiple choice scores, and I'll show you how to grade it? Might as well. I mean, we're already this far into the video. Yes, yes. Okay, perfect. So you add up your scores, add up all your points on all the free responses, and then you need them individually as well. Maybe put your scores at the top. Okay, and then we'll do corrections later because right now you don't really have corrections because you just have what scores you got. Okay, and then try to find the spot while I'm doing this because I just have to quickly find it. But I know Mrs. Tefengshin emailed it to me, so I'm pretty sure I have it. The scoring guidelines, and if not, I can find it on the internet. Okay, so you start doing the scoring. Okay, and then if you so that you can be ready to upload, because a lot of our BC students, we only had like 29 upload, but we have like 80 students who finished. So we don't know their scores. We only know their multiple choice scores, but we want to know their free response scores. So you got to make sure you go to the Google form that is at the end of the instructions. Like there's the Illuminate, and that's how you do the multiple choice. And then after we grade, then you're going to upload. So I'll try to post that in the Google Classroom as well. Okay, so look for that. I'm going to hit save. So I have these 2 documents. I will also post both of them in Google Classroom. Okay, so let's see if my internet works here. It should. Okay. This was the public, what's it called? AP Public Practice Exam answers. No, Maybe this will work. Let's check. College Board. Okay, that should work. Ooh, viewer. I don't know if they're going to let me write on it. Oh, maybe. Okay, zoom, 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 zoom. Hold on. Oh, look at all the stuff they used to say to you. There are 10 minutes remaining in part B. Stop working and close your exam booklet. Place it on your desk, face up. Remain in your seat without talking. Zoom, 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 zoom. Oh, remember? Bubble sheet? Bubble sheet. Okay. Fill in the purple. Okay. Vroom, 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 vroom. Okay, here we go. Let's go. Can you guys still see this? I should have stopped presenting, right? Okay, go. Free responses. Go, 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 go. Okay, these are not the same free responses because you guys already did the free responses. We blew it. We couldn't use a private one. We usually, for our mock, we don't use this one. We use a secret one, but it can only be done in class. Scoring guidelines. So these 2012 guidelines are not your test. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Okay, here we go. AB scoring worksheet. Here is the important part. Okay, so here is the important part. Let me take a picture for the future. Picture. Okay, so this, I'm going to call this mock exam. And if your friends haven't taken it, tell them they need to take it. We really need scores. Okay, we need scores. We want to know how you're doing. How come it's all oh, okay. This is a different, I'm in a different app. I'm in my my taking pictures with my new tablet app. Okay, so now this is, okay, you take your multiple choice. Oh, let me make that a little thicker. Thicker. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is, let me tell you how you figure out the score. You do multiple choice times 1.2 plus your free response score. That total is what you put on this list. I'm going to also calculate the percentages for you. And remember, the AP is not today. So the whole point is another mock. Okay, you're just trying to see where you are so far. Okay, my phone's out of battery. Okay, I have way too many devices over here. I have my old tablet. I have my new tablet. I bought a new tablet just as an excuse, you know, to buy a new tablet since I was teaching remotely. My old tablet doesn't have very good memory. Okay, so here we go. And let me divide for you. Okay, so, and this will help you just kind of, now this is this exam. Different exams have different percentages, but these are very similar to the percentages. Okay, and in this year, 54 over 108 is 50%, isn't it? Let me divide that just to make sure. Yeah, that's 50%. Okay, so 41. So this must have been a hard year. Maybe the free response, maybe the multiple choice. Mm-hmm. 31%. Okay. Okay, and each year they change. But if you get a 50%, it's been at least a 3 for many, many years. Okay, so I mean, we'd have to go back like 15 years or something for a 3 not to be, a 50% not to be passing. Can you see these scores? Okay, cool. So this is helpful? This is the information you want to know? You want me to stay on this page? Now, what I do, if you want to know how good you are at free response, if you were just doing free response only and you wanted to know what your corresponding AP score was, this would be what, 33.5 to 54. And this would be 27 to 33. This would be 20.5 to 26.5. And this would be 20, 16.5 to 20, and this is 0 to 16. So this is if you were just doing free response only. And if you want to know a multiple choice, you can figure out your percentage and see if you're, just if you want to know. But remember, the multiple choice practice, if your teachers have you doing any multiple choice practice, that's because you can practice all the topics in less time. I would much rather do 45 multiple choice questions than 45 free response questions. So if we want to test, do you know how to do average value? Do you know how to do SVA? Do you know how to do acceleration? Do you know how to do total distance? And then each of those topics show up in free response questions. So if they're having you do multiple choice, it's for a reason. Okay, I know your test is not multiple choice, but all the teachers and we were discussing it and we're thinking, well, should we still have you doing multiple choice questions? And we decided we do. Okay, so if you're doing multiple choice, but this is usually the time we start to give you tests on free response. So what you were missing, and you can see it on your calendar, is it says like test on free response. And we have you get proficient at different free responses. So we would have you get proficient at an area free response, an accumulation function free response. I call it graph given, but they call it, I don't remember what they call it. They have another name for it. And then like the tables one. And so they just want you proficient at all the different types of free responses. By this point, you've kind of seen all the types. There's about 9, but they're going to take off accumulation, and they're going to take off accumulation, and they're taking off area for the AB students. Okay, the colleges are still expecting that you know it. Okay, so since the colleges are expecting that you know it, it's good that you know it. It's good that we went through everything. And that's why the videos on the College Board are teaching you sometimes things that are not on the test. At least they are for BC. And it's like, why are you teaching that? Well, because the colleges still want you to learn everything, or they don't want to give you credit. So they want you to learn everything, but they're not testing on everything because that's not fair. So they're trying to be helpful. Anyway, so people do improve. Usually you get at least a score higher on the real test if you keep studying. If you study and grade it each time, you might go up 2 points. So if you got a 4 overall on this test, well, 2 points is like a 6. Well, you can't get a 6, so you can only get a 5. But if you got a 3, you could get a 5 if you keep putting the work in. Okay, I don't remember. Miss Tefengshin said it in BC last year. I don't remember what it was, or maybe it was your class, but she'll put a comment in the big class that basically said, I think one of her students got a 2 on the mock exam, this mock exam that we did at school, and then they got a 5 on the real exam. So it's all about how much work you put in from here on out. Okay. Okay, anything last minute? People who are going to see this YouTube video are like, Miss Nichols, you were just talking so long, but you guys had such great questions. Any questions? Make sure you multiply by 1.2 or your score is going to be too low. If you do multiply by 1.2, you can also then look at this list to see how well you did on the multiple choice. Did you score better than the first mock? Do you remember the first mock that you did in class when you didn't know how to do anything? But it's like, oh, let's take the mock, and we have no idea what we're doing. That was, I think, 1985. Good, right? At the beginning, we're like, can you just get 10? We were so happy if you just got 10 multiple choices right. Okay. And you've been out of school. I mean, you've been out of school for 2 weeks, so it's very hard to continue studying, but you guys can do this. Okay. And if you're going to study in any other APs that for some reason your teachers aren't online as much, what you can do is the free responses are on the College Board website. You do it, you fix it. You do it, you fix it. The pencil pen thing works in all subjects. Okay. So you take care of business and don't give up. All your teachers are willing to help you. Okay. You just don't have to sit in class with us. Okay. But we miss you and we want to teach you and we're bored here. Okay. We're bored and want to teach and we want to help. Okay. If you guys ever want any other live things solved, you just let me know. For the integral question in 5B, what are some key tips we should know to always put the explanation portion? Integral question in 5B. Okay, so I'm going to hit save here. And let's see how fast I can get back to that folder. Download. Documents, I think. Right on PDF. Oh, let's see. No, that's BC. Hold on. We got to see where it is. I hope I hit save. I don't know. Scoring guidelines. No. I don't know. I'll have to find it. Well, I could look at this anyway. Hold on. Let me look. Form. No. Where are you? Oh, maybe it's here. Okay. Number 5. On the explanation for the integral. This, if I see this, I see total distance. So you do want to know that. Now, we don't do that for total distance as much, but you will be learning that through the free responses. So a lot of the material that are now free response, we didn't teach you specifically in your notes, and we teach you through the free responses. So you're going to want to make sure that you communicate with your teachers if you ever have questions like that, okay? This is the calculator way to do this. To me, I call this the calculator total distance. Now, this is not a calculator question, though. Okay, but to me, that's the calculator total distance. The other total distance was, remember when you found like position at A, position at B, and you had to find out where the velocity was 0. And then you found that, and this, and this. And then you added them up. That was total distance. Okay, so this was total distance, the non-calculator way. Well, this is total distance, the calculator way. Okay, so when I see that, that's how I know that's total distance. So if I know that's total distance, then I know what the meaning is, because that v was velocity. It's very cool. So the absolute value of velocity is speed. But if you take the integral of speed, the integral of speed is total distance. So yes, but we don't talk about that too much until this time period. So just remember, we were planning to continue teaching you during this time period. So you just have to let us teach you online instead. Okay, and anything that says optional, you got to do it. You want to pass the AP test with the high pass rate that we always have at Walnut High School. Okay, but it wasn't just from Mach 1 and Mach 2, and then all of a sudden you take the test. Okay, so the idea is, if velocity looks like this, say velocity curve look like that, then what you'd be doing is the speed makes everything positive. Okay, so it makes everything positive. And then when you take the antiderivative of it, it accumulates this area and this area right here, and that's what gives you the total distance. So yes, Joanne, you are right. But when you take the integral of it, then that's when it turns out to be total distance, which is something that you learn at this period. Okay, you weren't supposed to know that ahead of time. Okay, we only see that through free response questions. Okay. I do need to figure out where this is later, but I will post this. Okay, and like I said, I'll also solve the questions. So I'll solve them with a normal explanation instead of where are the points. It'll just be, how do you solve the questions? Okay, and your teachers are doing that too, so they'll definitely help you. If you upload, they're going to want to look at your work. And if you say, hey, could you help me with this? You know, I know you guys either text them or you email them or whatever, but they're going to love to answer you. Sorry, last question. No, I don't mind. Except my phone's out, so I just, I should plug it in. Hold on, let me plug it. I don't know if there's anybody who's like waiting for me to answer them. Like my best friend who came in and he wanted to know which one of my 2 credit cards was the one that works, and I was so rude to him. I was like, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. So he's very nice though. Let's see. Sorry, last question. Haha, for the absolute. I have to go apologize to him after this. Sorry, last question. Haha, the absolute value of V, when do we know if it's asking for displacement or distance? Okay. So displacement, let me do a little mini thing here. Okay, so let's see. Oh, look, you guys remember math analysis? You could be doing augmented matrices. You could do determinants. This is determinants. area, except I made an error. I said the area was, I forgot the 1/2 in the front of the formula. So I messed up a bunch of questions. Anyway, so let's go back to that. I like having my students there to help me correct my errors. Okay. Now for an answer from our sponsor, Desmos. Yes, but oh, that's so funny. You're so funny, coronavirus. Ooh. It is a logistic. I was thinking that. I was totally thinking that. It's totally logistic. Yes. Somebody was saying something like, when it stops increasing. I was like, that's a point of inflection. That was my Facebook today. Of course, we're going to make it. And I think we already had it. Don't you think, you guys, we already had it here in Walnut? I think we already had it. I think we already had it, but we just weren't so sick, so nobody died. Okay. Spicy real application, right? Oh, hopefully the one that they have isn't that. Okay. You guys, it's awesome. Okay, we'll have to look at that. So you guys email that to me. Okay, somebody email that to me because I don't want to copy and paste it right now. Okay, so the question was displacement versus distance. Okay, so S of t is displacement, just straight. Okay, so the only difference between displacement and distance is, let's think of a plane. Okay, so I'm flying to Florida. Okay, so I'm here in Los Angeles. And I'm flying to, actually, I'm going to fly to Louisiana. Okay, so I'm going to fly to New Orleans. Okay, and this distance is, I don't know what the real distance is, 2,000. And this distance is 1,000. These are not accurate numbers. Okay, so if I wanted the distance, so say my flight flew to Florida and then flew back to New Orleans, so I could save some money. Okay, just because it happened to be that flying through Florida made it less money. Okay, so displacement would mean I only went 2,000 to New Orleans. So from LA to New Orleans, I only went 2,000. My distance from LA to New Orleans, so this is displacement, and my distance from Los Angeles to New Orleans would be a lot, right? Because LA to Florida would be 3,000, and then I went back, so it would actually be 4,000. So the that's the distance. How much distance did I travel? So the way you did it is you did like position at Los Angeles, 0, let's say. Position at Florida, where you stopped, was 3,000. And then the position at New Orleans was 2,000. So what you did is you said this is 3,000 and this is 1,000, and then you added them. That was our total distance, the way we usually do at Walnut. Okay, and then a displacement is just the position at the end minus the position at the beginning. So if I'm changing that to an integral, that would be the antiderivative of velocity from A to B. This is the displacement because it's equal to this when you take the antiderivative. And then total distance, I don't want the velocity. I don't want, if this is counting as 300, I don't want this 100 to count as negative 100. I want it to count as positive 100 as well. So that's why I take the integral of the absolute value of velocity to get total distance from A to B. So that's just a little explanation. Don't know if that helped, but that's my mini explanation of displacement versus distance with the integrals, because we don't usually use the integrals. So that's this way, and then our normal way would be this is total distance. And then displacement is just what was the position of New Orleans? It was 2,000. And what was the position of Los Angeles? I was counting that as 0. And then that's 2,000 miles. Okay. And again, you guys, if you have questions on these questions, these kind of things, I'll try to make a video with just me just straight doing all 6 questions. Okay, or another teacher will. Okay, so somebody will solve them all for you because you took them very seriously. Now you should take every other free response thing seriously. If you take it seriously, you guys are going to improve. Everyone's going to get a 5, right? You're going to just push it all the way up to a 5. Okay, and even if you got a 1 on the multiple choice, it just means you need some more work. Okay, we have time. Okay, we don't know when the AP test is going to be, but they're not going to tell us on April 3rd and then have it April 5th, right? So hopefully their first one is May 5th, like when it was supposed to be, May 5th, May 7th, something like that. And then the next one, maybe, June. Okay. And then probably you'll want to take the earlier one because we're going to study from now until then. Okay. I hope all your families are good. They're going to freak out that this video is like 2.5 hours long. So the other teachers will be like, why is Jennifer doing these live videos that are so long? Anyway, but we still have 17 people left. That's very exciting. Okay. So anything last minute? Anyone wants to say? Oh, shoot. It was my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. Okay. 2.5 hours. It's okay, though. I just didn't want you guys to be suffering too much. Okay. I don't mind. I could do math all day, every day. Do you know the math topics that will be for sure required to know to prepare for any free response? We will know a lot more Friday. So far, they've taken area out. Okay, area and volume, and they've taken out accumulation functions, applications of integrals. Okay, Mrs. Tefengshin, I believe, posted the exact list. I'll make sure that we post it also to the group, the joint one. But we didn't want to emphasize that yet because we have this slight hope that they're going to put area, volume, and accumulation because our school's good at that. So we would love to have those. Now, you'll still do well even if theirs are not on the test. But we don't want to say, well, don't study them at all because we don't know yet. So as soon as we know, we'll let you know. Okay, your teachers are awesome. Make sure you communicate with them because, like I said, they miss you. And they're like, I'm sure they're stressed. Like, are my students studying? At some point of my 12 HLBC students, they only 9 of them, or no, only 3 of them were on the Google thing. And I was like, where's the other one? So we're a little worried. And then I have one girl who hasn't taken the multiple choice yet. So I keep sending her text messages. Hey, what's up? Have you taken the multiple choice? Are you going to take the multiple choice? What's happening? Are you okay? Is your health okay? She said she's just stressing over college, but she says that she'll take it tonight for me. Anyway, so there is a list. It's actually on the College Board website, but we'll make sure that we get that for you and we'll find out a lot more information on Friday. We want them to test on the topics that they removed, that they sort of removed. So like I said, we sent them an email. We'll hope. We'll hope. And if not, we have less to study. So we won't study area, volume, and we won't study accumulation functions. Accumulation functions are the ones that, like, the oil is going in and then there's some oil going out, and then we have to figure out, how much oil at a certain time or how much total has come in or what's the rate, when is it at the highest amount, when is it at the lowest amount. So those kind of cancel each other out because if you haven't been studying those too much right now, then you're not that good at them maybe. I know you're good at area volume. But hey, we can just focus on the other ones. There's less to focus on. Then we only really have to know how to do like 6 free responses, and then they're going to pick 3 of them. It's totally doable. But remember, the multiple choice is going to get you so you can do when they all of a sudden have average rate of change in the middle of a question, or they have average value in the middle of a question. If you don't do the multiple choice practice that your teachers recommend, then you're going to have some trouble. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? No? Hey, puppy, you want to come say hi to the student? Oh, do you want to come say hi to the student? I think they can see you. Hi, puppy. Hi, puppy. Oh, look at the puppy. There's my puppy. That's Minnie. Hi, Minnie. And you're so good looking that you said hi. Yes, that you said hi to the student. I know, right? Oh, I wonder if we should wait. Let me take off the recording. What does this thumbs up do? Oh, I could just put it right there. That's kind of fun. Okay. How can I stop recording? Okay, so let's see. Stop recording, but then you guys